Very good evening, everyone. How are you all? Great. Now, last class we have done two concepts. Very important concept. One is what periodicity concept, and second was accrual concept. What was periodicity concept? Anyone who can explain? Anyone? No, no. That you should say in this way. As per this concept, financial statement is prepared for a particular accounting period. Now that accounting period is not defined, but as per practice, it should consist of 12 months. And as per Income Tax Act and Companies Act, it should start from 1st April and 31st March. We follow that practice means for in India, the accounting period will be financial year ending with 31st March. Correct? Understood. Then what is accrual concept? One. ठीक है. Okay, very good. Correct. Perfect answer नहीं है लेकिन मजा आ गया. Correct. I said that we should not be perfect. लेकिन मजा आना चाहिए. We have understood the emotions. Emotions understood. So she will get marks. Correct. It can be more than 80% marks also. 80% will be very good marks, na? Correct. But can I say you should say in this way, income should be recorded when it is earned. The word is what? Earned. Correct. Whether received or not received. Means whether received or receivable. Similarly, expense will be recorded when it is incurred, whether paid or not paid. Okay? So when I am saying earned, so it should be earned for a particular accounting period. Incurred, it should be incurred in that particular accounting period. Means in simple word, we can say that income and expenses were recorded in the accounting period in which they relate, to which they relate. So income of this financial year will be recorded in this financial year only. Expense of this financial year, this means any financial year, will be recorded in that financial year. Understood? Correct. And can you say this was derived from which concept? Periodicity concept only. The accrual concept was derived from periodicity concept. Correct? Yes, sir. Now we have done two examples. Correct? I hope you have understood. The last example, whatever we have done, last example, whatever we have done, have you understood this journal entry? Batao. Have you understood this journal entry? Batao. Correct? Any doubt? So can I say last year rent was paid, means current year rent was paid 40,000, which include 5,000 paid for previous year. 5,000 paid for previous year. Correct? It means there was some rent payable in previous year. Means there was some liability in previous year which was paid in current year. So that liability has been decreased. That liability was decreased. Understood? It means current year expense will be 40 minus what? 5. 40 minus 5. I hope you have understood this. Now continue with example number 3. So we are doing accrual concept. Concept remains same. Accrual concept and continuation of example. Example number 3. Correct. Now our financial year was which year? 2021. Correct? Yes, sir. Understood. Correct. So I need to give you some what? I don't know. Rent paid, rent paid during 2021 is equal to 45,000. Correct? Which includes, which includes a payment of rupees 10,000 for the year for the year 21-22. Have you understood? Means in current year how much rent paid? 45,000. But this include a payment for which year? Next year. What is the rent expense of current year? Batao. What is the rent expense of current year? So rent expense will be how much? Batao. 45,000 was paid, but 10,000 do not relate to current year. It relate to next year. So minus what? 10,000. Minus 10,000 is equal to what? 35,000. Correct? Very simple. Correct? Very simple. Now, if you want to do the journal entry, first we'll do payment journal entry. So, how much you have paid? 45,000. So, first journal entry is what? Rent, expense, whatever, account debit to bank. Means always what is the rule? First you do payment entry. And adjustment entry is done at the end. Correct now. Now you have paid this much. So you have recognized an expense of 45,000. But at the end you realize that out of 45,000, 10,000 is not an expense of this year. It is not an expense of this year. It means you need to increase expense or decrease expense. Decrease expense. Decrease in expense will be, so the decrease in expense will be debited or credited. Decrease in expense will be credited. So we'll say to what? Rent expense. To rent expense. How much? 10,000. I hope you are understanding what I am saying. Means out of 45,000, 10,000 is not an expense of current year. It is an expense of next year. So current year will decrease the expense. Decrease in expense will be created. Correct? Understood? So can I say we have decreased the expense, you have understood, but which account will be debited? That we need to understand. We need to find out the other aspect of the account. My question to you all, the total payment was 45,000. Total outflow was 45,000. Out of 45,000, you have derived benefit for what amount? So 35 become expense. Means any expenditure from which benefit is derived is what? Any expenditure from which benefit is already derived is what? Expense. So 45 minus 10, 35 हो गया. And any expenditure from which benefit will be derived, it means it is an asset. Means can I say out of 45,000, 35,000 is what? And out of 45,000, 35,000 is what? So expense done. 10,000 is what? So we need to increase or decrease asset. Increase the asset. Decrease expense and increase asset. It means we need to open which account? Asset account. Let us give some name to this account, and I hope you know the name. What is the name of that account? You know, but prepaid expense account. So we'll open one account, prepaid rent account. Prepaid rent account. How much? 10,000. Have you understood this? Prepaid rent account. So can you see it is increasing asset and decreasing expense. Decrease in expense. Understood? Very simple to apply modern rules. Now I think you are finding what? Easy. Let us apply golden rules. Maja aa jayega. In golden rules, you have done this type of journal entry without applying golden rules. Entry was given, you have done rectification. Correct now. Entry you have done. Journal entry you have done, but you don't know why we have done that journal entry. But now I hope you are understanding why prepaid expense account debit, why expense account credit. You have done this journal entry na. So prepaid expense to expense. Rato bachcho. Bolo, whenever there is a prepaid expense, what journal entry? Prepaid expense account debit to expense. Can you say bakwas? Can you say we can form our own journal entry provided we know the rules? Correct. Can you say slowly it will be in our mind forever. Means whenever I will say prepaid expense, your journal entry will be prepaid expense account debit to expense only. But can I say even though it is in our mind, we should know how it has been derived. How it has been derived. Let us apply golden rules. So my question to your expense, if you want to apply golden rules, you will not be able to apply only. Golden rule says what? All expenses will be debited. But here it is decrease in expense. There is no rule for that. There is no rule for that, na? Now you have done this journal entry with golden rules only. How we don't know. And we can't say rent expense is in income. Can we say decrease in expense is income? No, that is what bakwas. So can I say in these golden rule will fail, and therefore I said modern rule is more scientific. Achha, leaves the rent expense. Come to what prepaid expense or prepaid rent account. It is which account? Real account, nominal account, personal account. देखो, अरे भाई, it is an asset. How it can be a nominal account, Nalayak? It cannot be nominal account. Now, asset can be either real or personal. Asset can be either real or personal. I have given it real means what? Any expenditure which will provide benefit or any amount which is receivable from any person. So, can you say this prepaid rent represent one person? Just try to understand. If it is a personal account, it cannot be real account. Any asset which is personal account cannot be real account. So, can you see you have given some amount in advance to a person and that is receivable from him? That is receivable from him, na? So, this is amount receivable from the owner of that building. Therefore, it is a personal account. Therefore, it is a personal account and it is a representative personal account. So, can I say debit the receiver? So, of course, that person is receiving cash. So, debit the receivable. Means can we make one rule? If to any expense account, means rent is an expense account. If to any expense account any prefix or suffix is added, for example, rent payable. Last class we have done rent payable. So some word was added after rent payable, or any prefix added, prepaid rent. So to an expense account, if any prefix or suffix is added, it becomes which account? Representative personal account. This is the rule. Means prepaid rent will be always what? Representative personal account. Rent payable will be always what? Representative personal account. Outstanding rent is another name of rent payable. That will be what? Representative personal account. Correct? Understood? Have you understood? Chalo, ठीक है. We'll give a note for this. But have you understood this? Can you do one example by your own? Example number 4. You do this example by your own. Correct? Rent paid during the year means 2000. Which financial year I have given? 2021 is equal to 1 lakh. Correct? Correct. Which includes 20,000 paid for 21-22. The rent unpaid for 2021 is equal to 25,000. Understood? Have you understood this information? The rent paid during the year is 1 lakh, but out of 1 lakh, some amount is paid for 21-22, and rent which is unpaid for current year means there was some rent for current year which is not yet paid. What is the rent expense? Batao. Solution. What is the rent expense? First, can you give me what is the rent expense? Batao. 1 lakh. Batao. 20,000 will plus or minus? Minus 20,000. And 25,000 will plus or minus? Plus na. Because 25,000 relate to which year? 2021 only. The rent of current year not paid. It is an expense of current year even though not paid. Accrual concept. So plus 25,000. Do you want any formula for this? Formula is not required. Of course, at the end I will give one formula, but that formula is actually not required if you know the concept. If you know the concept, that formula is not required now. So what is the expense, rent expense of current year? How much? 1 lakh. 1,05,000 is the expense. Correct. Now what will be journal entry? First journal entry will do for rent paid. First journal entry you will do for 1 lakh. What is the journal entry? Rent expense account debit to bank. How much you have paid? 1 lakh. Then you found out of 1 lakh, 20,000 is not for this year. It is for which year? So what journal entry you will do, batao? Very good. Prepaid rent. Prepaid rent account debit to what? Rent expense, and expense will be decreased. How much decrease in expense? 20,000. Understood? Then you found that there is some amount which is payable. Very good. There is some amount which is payable. So what journal entry you will do? Rent payable account debit. There will be increase in expense or decrease in expense. Plus means what? Increase in expense will be अरे बोलना रे, increase in expense will be debited. So you will debit rent account or rent payable account. Huh? Listen and say, when there is something unpaid, so you are saying it is increase in expense. So increase in expense will be debited. You will debit which account? Rent account or rent payable account? Huh? Rent payable is not an expense account. Rent payable is a liability account. Rent expense, this rent expense is an expense account, na? Rent expense, I am writing rent expense. So what is expense account? Rent expense account. And payable account is a liability account. Whatever payable to any person is a liability. Correct na? So you are saying increase in expense. So there are two aspects in this. One is what? Expense. One is liability. So increase in expense will be, and increase in liability will be created. So increase in expense. So which expense? Rent expense na. So rent expense will be debited, and increase in liability will be what? Rent payable na. Rent payable, liability will also increase because it is not paid to payable in future. Payable in future by what amount? 25,000. 25,000. So you can see rent expense debited 1 lakh, then credited what? 20,000 to minus. So if some amount is credited to a debit amount, so automatically minus now. So if this is plus, this is minus, and then once again debited plus. So that only you have done a 1 lakh minus 20 plus 25. So automatically your rent expense become how much? 1 lakh 5,000. Understood? Correct. But you have also increased one prepaid rent account and a liability account. But the prepaid rent is an asset or liability? Prepaid rent is an asset or liability? This will go to what? Asset side of balance sheet. Rent payable is an asset or liability? This will go to liability side of balance sheet. Correct. Rent expense 1 lakh 5,000 will go where? Rent expense will be transferred to what? PL. So it will go to what? Debit side of PL account. Debit side of PL account. So in debit side of PL, you write down 1 lakh 5,000. 1 lakh 5,000. Expense. What is the total expense? 1 lakh 5,000. So expense will be debited to which account? PL account. PL account. Understood? Correct? Have you understood? No doubt. One more. Let me give one more. Example number 5. Rent paid during 2020-21 is 1,20,000. Correct. Now, rent outstanding. OS means I'm writing full only. Outstanding. Rent outstanding at the beginning. At the beginning means 1/4/2020. Bolo yes or no? At the beginning means at the beginning of the year. So rent outstanding at the beginning was 20,000 and rent outstanding at the end. At the end means 31st March 2021 is 25,000. So I need to explain what is the meaning of this. Then only you can do. I need to explain what is the meaning of rent outstanding at the beginning, rent outstanding at the end. Rent outstanding means some amount is payable. The outstanding means this amount is payable. Correct? Means can I say this rent outstanding at the beginning means what? The rent of previous year, rent of previous year, not paid in, not paid in previous year, means it was unpaid. So it become opening liability. Means last year closing liability, this year opening liability. Understood? Correct? Understood. So can is last year we have already passed one journal entry. So last year already we have passed one journal entry for this or not? So what journal entry we have done for last year? Whether it is an expense of which year? It is an expense of which year? Last year, but not paid in last year, means payable. So last year already we have done which journal entry? Bata? Rent account debit to what? To rent payable or rent outstanding? Both are same. Rent payable means this entry is already recognized. This entry is already recognized in last year. Bolo yes or no? Understood. Correct. Why? Because this was an expense of previous year, not paid in previous year. It is payable in previous year. So can you see this will be shown as a liability of which year? No, 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 no. This entry you have recorded in which year? So it was a liability of which year? Last year. It was coming in the balance sheet of last year. Understood? So balance sheet is prepared at the beginning or at the end? At the end. So again, this is liability of previous year. This is liability of previous year. So can I say we call it, it is a closing liability of previous year. Because liability will be recognized at the end. So closing liability of previous year become opening liability of current year. Closing liability of previous year become opening liability of current year. So you can see at the beginning, rent outstanding at the beginning. So if I am providing information for current year, I will change this in it was outstanding at the beginning. It is outstanding at the beginning means it was payable for previous year. The expense of previous year not paid in previous year will be paid in current year. And when I am saying rent outstanding at the end, it means what? It means what? Rent of current year not paid in, not paid in which year? Current year means will be payable in next year. Understood? Have you understood? Correct? Have you understood? Means can I say this 20,000 was an expense of, was not paid in, but will be paid in current year. Understood? This 25,000 is a rent expense of, is not paid in, will be paid in next year. Understood? Have you understood this point? Now, can you give me what is the rent expense? Solution. What is the rent expense? Can you give me plus minus? Rent expense is equal to what? But the 1 lakh, 1,20,000. Then what? Plus minus what? So minus what? 20,000. Because this is not an expense of current year. Plus what? Because it is an expense of, I am asking it is an expense of. Don't think about payment. When I am saying rent expense, irrespective of payment. 1 second. 1,20,000 paid minus 20,000 because it is an expense of previous year. Plus 25,000 means it is an expense of current year. This 20,000 will be paid in current year, but not an expense of. This 25,000 will be paid in, but it is an expense of. So while finding expense account, we are applying which concept? Accrual concept. This is which concept? Accrual concept. Expense will be recognized when it is incurred irrespective of payment, whether it has been paid or not paid. Understood? Now, can you give me the journal entry? First for 1,20,000. Now you will give me the journal entry, huh? First for 1,20,000. Correct? Batao. Rent, expense, account debit to what? Bank. How much? 1,20,000. 1,20,000. Now for 20,000, 25,000. Don't say. For these two you need to form journal entry. Do by your own. And don't discuss. Don't discuss. First journal entry, no doubt, na rent to bank. I have already said, till you understand this concept, I will remain in this concept. So I am not in hurry. You do mistake. Till you do correct, I will give example, give example, give example, give example. At the end, if you say yes sir, okay, then only we'll leave this concept. Chalega? Done? Done? Batao. What is journal entry for 20,000? What is journal entry for 20,000? Outstanding rent or rent payable both are same? You have written outstanding rent. So I will also write on outstanding rent. Chalega? Rent payable is also correct. You have written rent payable. So I will be with you. So rent payable and outstanding rent are same only. So rent payable account debit, how much? 20,000. To what? To rent expense, how much? So can you explain once why you have done this journal entry? Increase, decrease. Why you have debited rent payable? Can you explain? If you can explain, then only I will understand that you have understood. Sometimes we are forming journal entry, but we have not understood why we are debiting rent payable. This concept is not clear, huh? So you need to explain why, as per the modern rules, why rent payable is debited, why rent expense created. Batao. Rule is what? Increase, decrease. Get mess. Don't explain the transactions. That's what I have also understood. Increase, decrease. What is increasing? What is decreasing? One second. Who can explain? Anyone who can explain this journal entry? You have done correct journal entry, but if you are not able to explain, means you have not understood. Huh? 1 minute. Who want to explain this journal entry? Decreasing. So this is decreasing. So this rent payable is an expense. 1 minute, 1 minute. If he is saying let him speak, I have given chance to everyone, but no one has raised the hand. I will only ask the person who is raising hand. If you are not raising hand, then you should not answer. Na? Simple. Why you become more energetic if someone is answering? Correct? Batao. So this is decrease in liability. Liability of which year? Yes. Decrease in liability of which year? Previous year. Very good. Now it become correct explanation. But this is what? Rent expense created what? Why rent expense account created? Increase in? Decrease in what? Decrease in expense of which year? No, no, current year, na. You have credited expense 1,20,000. So you are decreasing expense of current year because it is not an expense of current. It is an expense of previous, not an expense of. So you are decreasing the expense of current year and decreasing the liability of. The liability of previous year paid is liability become zero. So you can see last year you have done this journal entry, na. Rent account debit rent payable because it was an expense of last year and liability of last year. And now you are decreasing this liability. Understood? Have you understood? In this you need to explain. हाँ मजा तभी आएगा. Journal entry you are able to form, but if you are not able to explain, means that is rectification, हाँ? Because you have seen the previous journal entry and then मजा आ रहा है. No, no, no. So if you are not able to explain, so I will assume that you are not understanding. चलेगा? You need to explain now. What is the third journal entry? It is prepaid rent or outstanding rent? अरे नालायक. It is not prepaid. Prepaid means you have paid in advance. It is what? Rent outstanding at the end means it is the expense of current year, not paid in current year. Means payable. It is liability of current year, na? Liability of current year. So what journal entry you have done? Rent expense. Rent expense will be debited to what? To rent payable. To rent payable, na? How much? 25,000. Who will explain? Who will explain? Well, increase in expense of which year? Current year. Very good. Then increase in liability of which year? Current year. Very good. Now it becomes perfect explanation. Correct? So you are also writing this now. You are also writing this. Understood? Have you understood? Now, if you have understood, I just want to ask something. In 2020-21, this is the current financial year, but in SOPL, how much rent expense will come? How much? 1 lakh? Understood? Understood? Correct? So you have taken that what? This amount you have taken, na? This is what? 1,25,000. Correct? Now, in balance sheet, of current year, we write on liability in which side? This side, na? This is liability, na? So rent payable will come. How much rent payable will come? How much rent payable will come? Huh? 25,000. Very good. Understood. So this is a liability of current year. Liability of previous year automatically becomes zero. It becomes zero. The liability of current year will come. Understood? And we can prepare the balance sheet and SOPL. This is the last stage. We'll come to balance sheet and SOPL, but I am just giving you how which item will go to balance sheet, which item will go to SOPL. Understood? Yes, sir. One more example. सब मजा नहीं आ रहा है. मजा नहीं आ रहा. अरे बोलना रे. So let me take one more example. Example number 6. Rent paid during 2020-21 is 3 lakh. Correct. Now, I am giving you prepaid rent. Prepaid rent at the beginning is what? 20,000. And I will give you what? Prepaid rent at the end. How much? 30,000. So I need to explain you what is this prepaid rent. Correct. Means this prepaid rent at the beginning is rent paid in which year? Rent paid in previous year. Understood. Expense of which year? Very good. Rent paid in previous year, but expense of current year. So it is an expense of current year, but paid in previous year. It means last year what journal entry we have done last year, because it was not an expense of last year, so we'll decrease expense. And if it is not an expense, so whatever we have paid and if benefit we received in future. So last year we have paid, but benefit received in current year. So for last year it was what? Asset. So increase in asset will be debited. Last year what journal entry we have done? Prepaid rent, account debit rent. This last year this journal entry was already done. Are you able to understand? Last year this journal entry was already done. So it means prepaid rent, this become asset of last year and not an expense of last year. It is an expense of current year. Understood? Correct. What is the meaning of this? Prepaid rent at the end means what? Batao. Rent paid in which year? Rent paid in which year? Current year. But it is an expense of NY means next year. Chalega? Have you understood? Correct. Now you'll say me what is the rent expense by plus minus. First, can you give me rent expense by plus minus? So rent expense of current year will be how much? Batao. 3 lakh plus how much? Plus 20 or 30? Plus 20 minus what? Minus 30. Pakka? Bolo. Bolo. We are now finding our rent expense of current year. Is it correct? How many are saying this is correct? How many are saying this is not correct? Means once again मजा नहीं आ रहा है. Once again. ठीक है चलो. But how much you have paid? But this 20,000 was paid in, but expense of, so will be added. Everyone is saying expense of current year, so why you are confused? Everyone is saying expense of current year, then why minus? Expense of current year will be added now, because we are finding expense of current year. If you are saying say it is an expense of current year, then why minus? Just right one. Don't think about previous question. Previous question is dangerous. Ye minus what? Don't, no. Never look what you have done in previous example. Previous example was of rent payable. This is an example of prepaid rent. Apply the concept. Apply the concept. Don't think what you have done in your previous classes. Right now, just apply the previous classes concept and do this question. Understood? So you are only saying it is an expense of current year. If you are saying it is an expense of current year, what you will do? If you are saying it is an expense of current year, what you will do? Plus only now, because we are finding expense of current year. Now this 30,000 is paid in expense of, so will you do plus or minus? Minus, simple. Expense of next year na. It is not an expense of current year, minus kar. Paid in current year, but expense of next year. It means it is not an expense of current year, minus. What is the expense? 2 lakh 90,000. Correct. Let me do the journal entry. First journal entry, I will do rent expense account debit to bank or cash, whatever. Huh? It can be paid in cash. It can be paid in checks also. I know. I hope you know about checks. It can be cash or bank. We are not. We should not fight for this. Understood? Now, can you give me second and third journal entry by writing? First you write down, then we'll discuss. First, can you give me second and third journal entry? If you can do it, means you have understood. But explanation also required. Huh? Bola. Second journal entry is what? Second journal entry. Second journal entry. Anyone? Bola. Maximum what will happen? You'll do give me the wrong journal entry, na? But whatever is in your mind, just respond. Bola. Second journal entry is what? First, 1 second. Means if you are saying prepaid rent, means 1 second you have not understood. You said increase in expense. Plus means what? Plus you have already said plus 20,000 na. It is increase or decrease in expense. So increase in expense will be what? So how can you say prepaid rent? If you are saying plus 20,000 means what? Increase in expense. Increase in expense will be what? Debited. So prepaid rent cannot be debited na. Expense will be debited. Simple. अरे बोलना रे. It means what? Rent expense account. Means can I give one shortcut? Can I give one shortcut? Rectification. But I don't want to give rectification. But sometimes rectification, sometimes shortcut is required from examination point of view. But the increase in expense will be what? So debited. Decrease in expense will be what? Return to rent expense. Understood? This is what 20,000. This so you can identify. But this is which account? This is prepaid rent or outstanding rent. Return to what? Prepaid rent. And here also what? Prepaid rent. Low. But this is rectification. Na? But slowly it will be in your mind. This will be only journal entry. Have you understood? So rent expense 20,000 increase debited. Rent expense 30,000 whatever has been paid is not an expense, it's credited. The other account will be other aspect will be prepaid rent. Other aspect will have prepaid rent. Understood? To just find out from expense point of view. Automatically other aspect you can do. If you know debit, you can find out credit na. If you know which account is debited, other aspect is understood. Correct? Now, who will explain this? Point number 2. Even though we have used shortcut, but who will explain? First, second, raise your hand. You want to? Good. Increase in expense of which year? Current year. Only C will say, okay? Oh, ho, 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 ho. Prepaid rent is not a liability. It is an asset of last year. It is an asset of last year. Last year we have opened one which account? Prepaid rent account debited. Means this was an asset of last year. Asset of last year, na? Correct? If asset of last year realized in, means, sorry, this is prepaid rent asset of last year and it is automatically adjusted in current year. So this is decrease in what? Asset of which year? Previous year. Correct? Understood. Now, who will explain point number 3? Point number 3. It is increasing asset of current year. Okay. Decrease in expense of current year. 100% correct. 100% correct. Understood. Brother. If you prepare SOPL, how much expense will come? Rent expense will be how much? 2,90,000. If you prepare balance sheet of current year, how much prepaid rent asset na? So prepaid rent will come in asset side how much? It is 30,000 na? 30,000. Bas. Understood. Have you understood? Correct. One more example, including all items. Understood? Chal. Let's see whether you are able to do or not. Example 7. So salary paid during 2020-21 is 2 lakh. Salary payable means outstanding, huh? At the beginning it is 5,000. Then on prepaid salary at the beginning 10,000. Then on salary payable at the end 20,000. Prepaid salary, are you getting what I'm saying? At the end it is 25,000. So can you give me salary expense? Better. What will be the salary expense of which year? Of 2020-21. Let's see how many of you are giving correct. First option is what? 2 lakh. First option is 2 lakh. 2 lakh. Second option. Second option 2 lakh. 2 lakh 10,000. What are you saying? 2 lakh. 2 lakh 10,000. 2 lakh 30,000. Someone is saying 2 lakh 30. 2 lakh 35. 2 lakh 35. 2 lakh 35. Someone is saying 2 lakh 35. Any more? 2 lakh 25 मजा आ रहा है मतलब 2,25,000 2,10,000 means till now one thing is clear that you have not understood. If you are getting so many answers means we have not understood. Simple now. It means one may be correct, I don't know, but four are incorrect. I don't know what is correct, but one may be correct, but four are incorrect. Understood now? Let's see what you have done. Now when I will explain, you will do correct. Salary paid, okay. This is the paid. Okay. But salary payable at the beginning, it means what? Salary payable at the beginning means it was paid in last year. Expense of, it was paid in last year, but expense of current year. Bolo. No, 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 no. If you are saying this means you have not understood. I am confusing you. The salary payable at the beginning means can I say it was not paid in last year and it was an expense of, so it is an expense of last year, not paid in last year. It will be paid in current year. Therefore, salary payable at the beginning now. So it was an expense of not paid in, will be paid in. So what will do? Plus minus. Minus. It is not an expense of current year. Then prepaid salary at the beginning. So it was paid in last year, but it was not an expense of, it is an expense of, so plus, correct. Then salary payable at the end, salary payable at the end, it is paid in current year, but not an expense of, not an expense of current year, it is an expense of next year, plus minus, minus, correct. Salary pay, prepaid salary at the end, it is paid in, sorry, my mistake, this salary payable now. Sorry. So salary payable at the end, it is, I actually taken prepaid salary, my mistake. Salary payable at the end means it is not paid in current year, not paid in current year, but it is an expense of current year only. Will be paid in next year. It is plus, correct. Then prepaid salary at the end. Prepaid means paid in, but not an expense of. It is an expense of. So what will do? Minus. What answer is coming? 2 lakh plus minus me you are getting different answer. 2 lakh 30,000 now. What you are saying, Baba? You are confused. This coming, you don't have calculator. So why it is for bad? Why you are doing in orally? Why God has created calculator? You know, we CA will do 1 plus 1 also in calculator. We do all calculation in calculator only. Huh? We don't, for calculation we don't use mind. Who has said 2 lakh 30? One mistake, one attempt. Understood? This type of mistake, plus minus mistake, no one will forgive you. So plus minus mistake nahi hona. For plus minus you do use calculator. What answer is coming? What answer is coming? How much it is coming? 2 lakh coming na? By using calculator 2 lakh will come. You are but we'll use calculator. Even though we are expert in oral, we'll use calculator. No one will use mind for calculation. One mistake, one attempt. No one will forget. I am not here to explain you plus minus how to do. I am here to only explain what item will be plus, what item will be minus. How to use calculator, that I will not explain. So 2 lakh is the correct. Who has given this 2 lakh? So you are correct. Tukka lag gaya kya? It was tukka or you have used your concept? Bolo. Tukka. चलो ठीक है. Sometime God is also with us. I don't know. But have you understood? But मजा नहीं आया. मजा तो नहीं आया ना. Of course practice required. But we are into example number 7. 6 example already we have done. Perfection, थोड़ा थोड़ा perfection was required. But this much answer, चलो ठीक है. 2 ऑप्शन आता तो चलो ठीक है. यहाँ 5 ऑप्शंस आ गया. चलो ठीक है. वन मोर चलेगा. एग्जाम्पल नंबर 2. Interest expense paid during 2020-21 is 1,25,000. Correct? Correct. Then it down. Prepaid interest at year end is 20,000. At year beginning is 15,000. Outstanding interest at year beginning is 25,000. Outstanding interest at year end is 19,000. Can you give me interest expense? Interest expense transfer to PL na? So this interest expense will be transferred to PL. So how much will be transferred to PL? One option I got of what? Option number 1, 1,14,000. Okay. Second option, next class everyone will bring calculator. Huh? Without calculator, account class don't come. One lakh, so it has two vote. 19,000. It looks like what? It is 19. It is looking like what? 9. You don't like the 9. You write on this. Okay, I will straight. 3 vote. 3 vote. No, everyone is thinking why 1,40,000 is not coming. This might be wrong. Huh? 1,14 can be wrong. So stick to your answer. Don't try to derive this answer. Huh? Don't try to derive 1,14. It might be wrong also, na? This much time will take. Don't see previous question, please. I have said in exam previous question will be from other chapter. Please don't see previous question. Huh? If you are doing after observing previous answer, then it is rectification. Then what is the use of giving this question? Then answer. So one more answer we got 1,26,000. Any more answer? Chalo. Your answer? Okay, 1,14,000. Your answer? 1,14,000. Your answer? 1,26,000. So third answer. 1,36,000. Your answer? Oh, your answer? Okay. Your answer? Some amount will come after calculating. That amount I'm asking. चलो ठीक है. Your answer? 29. अरे मतलब 4 option तो we got. 1,49,000. 59. चलो. Let's see. One more. 1 lakh. 1,26,000. चलो. There is no need to discuss. Okay. She has her mind. Why? She is also capable now. Please. I will say in class, don't take others' help. Don't help others. Correct? If you are helping others, then also not correct. If you are taking help, then also not. Whatever we are doing, we'll use our own mind. Sometimes what happens, we take the help and we think that we have understood, but actually we don't understand. It will be dangerous. Better you do mistake and try to realize that yes, we have not understood. Correct now? Better do mistake. Okay? Okay. And I am here to help you now if you are doing mistake. Now let us, so 1,25,000 paid prepaid interest at year end. So prepaid interest at year end is paid in current year. Everyone paid in current year. Expense of next year. Everyone this. So expense of next year plus minus minus. Anyone have done plus? Understood your mistake? Understood your mistake? Then prepaid interest at year beginning. So paid in last year. Expense of current year. Expense of current year. So it will be plus. Anyone who have done minus? Reverse हो गया. I think you have taken this as beginning and you have taken this as end. You should read the question also carefully. I will confuse you na by giving first end and then beginning. I think you have not read the question carefully. This is ICI exam. Correct? This is which exam? And he is our godfather. God plus father. So ICI is God as well as father. Understood not? So dangerous, huh? Correct? They are to confuse. They will give simple question, but you will be confused with the language of the question. Then outstanding interest at year beginning. Year beginning means it was not paid in last year, but expense of last year. Expense of last year will be paid in, but it is not an expense of. So what you will do? Anyone have done plus? Understood your mistake? Mistake समझ में आया? Understood? Okay. Now outstanding interest at year end. So it is expense of current year, not paid in. Will be paid in. Will be paid in. No. Expense of current year, not paid in. Will be paid in what? Next year. Will be paid in next year. Expense of current year plus minus. Anyone who have done minus? So what amount is coming? 1 lakh. So I think those who have not given this answer, you have realized your mistake. No, okay. Don't disclose. But have you understood your mistake? Have you understood your mistake? Have you understood your mistake? Okay. Chalo. We have done. We'll take some more questions. But let us now come to the journal entries. So I'll give you something in writing. So we are doing which accounting? Can I say we are doing accrual accounting? Accrual accounting. correct? So accrual accounting treatment is for expense and for recognition of expense and income. So first write down expense and this column write down income. Till now we have not done any question for income. Till now we have not done any question on income. So after this explanation, I'll give you one question of income also. Correct? Yes, sir. So first write down outstanding expense at year end means what? At year end means what? बताओ. So the expense of current year, correct? But not paid in current year. Understood? Understood? It means can I say payable in, it is payable, it is a payable means liability, it is payable for current year. Understood what I am saying? It is payable for current year. Payable for current year means liability for current year. Understood? Now we'll think this way: asset will be debited, liability will be created. Understood? It means simply, if you have understood this, so we should write down two what? Expense payable, expense payable, and it is an expense of current year. It means expense will be increased, so expense account debited. This will be journal entry. Expense account debit to expense payable. Correct? So increase in expense of current year and increase in liability of current year. Increase in expense and increase in liability. So always think this way: outstanding expense, expense at year end means it is liability. Liability will be created. So always journal entry will be expense account debit to outstanding expense. Expense account debit to outstanding expense. Correct? Understood? Have you understood this point? Just write down one note. Expense payable is also known as what? Outstanding expense or accrued expense. Accrued expense. So this expense has been accrued but not paid. So because we are using accrual concept, we say in this way: this expense has been accrued for current year but not yet paid. Accrued for current year but not yet paid. Understood? So better terminology is accrued expense. Outstanding expense is not the correct terminology, but we are using, therefore it is used. So I will say better terminology is either expense payable or accrued expense, but we can use outstanding expense from examination point of view. Understood? Have you understood this? Bolo. Then come to point number 2. Outstanding expense at year beginning. It means what? Okay. Expense of which year? Expense of which year? Previous year. Will be paid in expense of previous year. Correct? But paid in but paid in current year. Correct. It means just reverse of previous entry. Just reverse means it will decrease previous year liability. The outstanding expense means last year liability will decrease. The decrease in liability will be debited. Understood? And it will decrease the expense also. So what journal entry will do? Expense payable account debit to expense account. Expense payable account debit to expense account. Understood? You can also use outstanding expense account debit or accrued expense account debit. So instead of expense payable, you can also use outstanding expense account or accrued expense account. That is your choice. But have you understood this journal entry? Bolo. Then point number 3. Can I say prepaid rent? Sorry, prepaid expense at year end. At year end. It means what? Hmm? It means बताओ, expense of next year paid in current year. Expense of next year paid in current year. So it is not an expense of current year. But because paid and benefit will be received in future, it become an asset. So all asset will be debited. So what will journal entry will do? Prepaid expense account debit, increase in asset and decrease in expense to expense account to expense account. Understood? Have you understood this point? Any doubt? Any doubt? Just write down. Prepaid expense, prepaid expense is also known as expense paid in advance or unexpired expense. Now, why it is known as unexpired expense, I will inform you, but not right now. Just write down, it is also known as unexpired expense. Now, why it is known as unexpired expense, I will inform you. But if they have said unexpired expense at the year end, it means it is nothing but prepaid expense. Correct? Why it is known as unexpired, we'll discuss. Correct? Have you understood this point? Correct? Then last, point number 4. The prepaid expense at year beginning. It means what? It is an expense of current year paid in expense of current year but already paid in previous year. Means already a prepaid expense account was opened in last year, that will decrease, or simply because it is an expense of current year will debit which account? Expense of current year will debit which account? Expense account. and the other aspect will be what? Prepaid expense account. Means reverse of previous journal entry. Reverse of previous journal entry. Have you understood? Correct? Have you understood? Means note statement to calculate expense debited to PL. Means how much expense will be debited to PL. Write down. Expense paid during current year. In this we'll do some plus minus. In this we'll do some plus minus. I will write down only item. You will do plus minus by your own. Okay? So outstanding expense at year beginning. Outstanding expense at year end. Prepaid expense at year beginning, and prepaid expense at year end. Understood? So this amount whatever will come after plus minus will be the expense which is debited to what? PL. So can you keep by your own plus minus? Do plus minus by your own. This is to identify which item will be plus, which item will be minus. Correct? Done. Done. बताओ. Outstanding at expense at year beginning. What you will do? Minus. पक्का? हाँ. चेक कर लो. Minus. Outstanding expense at year end plus prepaid expense at year beginning plus prepaid expense at year end minus. Understood? Plus minus में any doubt? No doubt. I hope expense you have understood. Can you see if you have understood expense, automatically you will understand what income. Automatically you will understand. Means I need to put less effort now for income. So let us write down, then we'll do one question. Correct now. Let us write down, then we'll do one question. Same thing. Outstanding income at year end. It means what? It means what? Income of current year, but not yet received. Means receivable in future. Understood what I have said? Income of current year. Income of current year. Income of current year not received in current year will be received in future. Correct? It means it is income receivable. Anything receivable is what? Asset or liability? Asset. Understood? Correct? So can I say this is income of current year but not received in current year. Understood? So it will become receivable for current year. receivable for current year na, understood, and will be received in future. So anything receivable is what? Asset account, and this is income of current year, but the income of current year will be credited or debited? Means increase in income of current year. So increase in income will be debited or credited? Income, increase in income, income increase हो रहा है ना, income of current year increase, so income increase, so it will be debited or credited? Huh? Why it is slow? We have done the rules. Rules will not change, huh? Rules will not change. So why you are very slow? Voice is coming. Increase in income will be credited. The rules will remain same. Understood? So can I say here income account will be credited? We need to increase the asset also. So increase in asset will be what? Debited. Is what journal entry? Can I say income receivable account debit to income account? Have you understood this journal entry? This income receivable is also known as what? Income receivable is also known as what? Also known as outstanding income, or what? Accrued income, or accrued income. Understood? Have you understood this point? Correct. I hope you are understanding. Understood? Then point number 2. Outstanding income at year beginning means what? Batao. Outstanding income at year beginning means it is income of previous year, not received in, will be received in current year. Correct. So can I say income of previous year but received in current year? Means can I say it was receivable of last year but received in current year? So can I say last year asset will decrease, and because this is not income of current year, income of current year will decrease. So decrease in income will be what? Decrease in income will be, and decrease in asset will be. So just reverse the previous entry. Just reverse the previous entry. Correct? What journal entry? Income account debit to income receivable. You can also write down outstanding income. But because if you have written previously income receivable, I am also using income receivable. Have you understood this? You can also use outstanding income or accrued income also. Accrued income account. Chalega? Have you understood this point? Means simple. If you see, think in this way. See, any outstanding income at year end is what? Receivable. Receivable is an asset. Asset will be debited. Entry will be what? Income receivable to income. Income receivable to income. We can do in this way. Similarly, any outstanding expense, the outstanding expense is liability. Liability will be credited. So what journal entry? Expense account debit to outstanding expense. We can think in this way. Once again, just try to understand. Any increase in liability will be always credited. Any increase in asset will be always debited. So if I am saying outstanding income at year end, so it is income receivable. Income receivable means asset. All asset will be debited. So what journal entry? Income receivable to income. When I am saying outstanding expense, the outstanding expense is what? Liability. Liability will be credited. What journal entry? Expense account debit to outstanding expense. So this thing we can keep in this way in our mind. And if you know the journal entry at year end, so automatically the reverse journal entry for what? Year beginning. The smart work is what? If you know at year end, you can frame journal entry at year beginning by reversing it. By reversing it. Understood? Correct? Now, next point. Point number 3. Can I say pre-received income? Pre-received income at year end. Pre-received income at year end means what? The income of next year received in the received in current year. Received in current year. Understood? Income of next year received in current year. But whether it is income of current year, whether it is income of current year, so decrease in income or increase in income. One second. Listen and say. Okay, 1 second. Income of next year received in current year. Whether it is in income of current year, so increase or decrease in income of current year. Whether will increase the income of current year or will decrease the income of current year. Huh? Will decrease. Decrease in income will be. Decrease in income will be. Huh? Decrease in income will be debited. Correct? Decrease in income will debited. Means we will say income account debit. Income account debit now. Other aspect understood. Can I say we'll say 2 what? Badao? Pre-received income. In this way you can frame the journal entry. And this pre-received income is liability. Whatever income I am receiving in advance is always a liability. Correct? Suppose you have paid fees in advance to me. You have paid fees of CA final in advance to me. Suppose. Not पहले CA inter आएगा. You have paid fees of CA inter to me. Right now though we are conducting CA foundation class. But sometime we may demand what CA inter together also. There are many academy who take fees for foundation inter final together. I don't understand how a student pay. I don't understand. Correct? Huh? But suppose you have paid inter fees in advance. So inter classes will be conducted. We don't know when you pass foundation. Correct now. It can be after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, that we don't know now. Correct. So that is fees received in advance. But till now we have not provided services to you. So fees received in advance will be a liability for me. Anything received in advance will be a liability for me. Understood? Correct. So can you see it is increase in liability? Increase in liability will be created. So decrease in income and increase in liability. Understood? Correct. Have you understood this point? Just write down. This is also known as pre-received income is also known as income received in advance. Got it? Last point, point number 4. Pre-received income at what? Year beginning. It means what? Batao. Income of current year. Received in what? Previous year already received. Now income of current year. So the current year income will increase or decrease? Income of current year. So will increase current year income or will decrease current year income? Increase now. So we'll say 2 what? Income account. Increase in income will be created. So income account will be created. when you are saying income of current year, so income of current year should be increased. So income account will be created because it was received in last year. It was a liability of, because it was received in last year. It was a liability of last year. Now received, correct now. So liability will decrease. The liability of last year will decrease. So liability of last year will decrease in current year. The decrease in liability will be what? Decrease in liability will be what? So pre-received income account debit. Understood. Pre-received income account debit. Everyone just try to understand one thing. You write down this much. Everyone just try to understand. There are two ways of learning. I have given so much time to this concept. I could have done in 20 minutes also. Means we have taken, I think, last day at least 45 minutes, and today it is not yet completed. Today will take 2 hours, almost 2 hours. So one concept I have given almost 3 hours. It could have been done in 25 or 30 minutes by just giving journal entries. And I would have said what? Ratlo. Correct now. It might have been, you would have understood also. And in class, whatever question I am giving, that also you are able to do it. But it will not be in your mind forever. Now we have done detailed discussion. It might happen right now because we are discussing so much, you are feeling some stress in your mind. It might happen. Means a lot of stress in your mind. Bole yes or no? Because for the first time you are using your mind. Correct now. It is a lot of stress in your mind. You might be thinking right now, "Arey baap re, so complicated, so complicated." So it might happen. It might be coming in your mind. Bole yes or no? How much is this? How many of you are feeling this? Okay. Nothing. I know what you are feeling. You are feeling so much complicated. But I am with you now. If I am giving so much time, so being a CA student, you should give more time now. I know the importance of this concept because I am teaching up to CA final level. And I know the importance of this concept. Means, if suppose simply, if I would have said this, and that low, and if the question will come of this nature, can you say most of you can do it? Plus minus, plus minus, plus minus. Okay. But what will happen if someone asks you to what? Pass journal entry. At that time you will find difficulty. Understood? Are you getting? Means high chances in exam they will ask you this only. And these only this statement plus minus plus minus. Can I say plus minus? You just remember this outstanding as expense at year beginning. Then automatically other you can find out. If you know minus outstanding expense at year beginning, so at year end will be plus only. And prepaid reverse. रट लो अरे बोलना रे or you can say it is very easy to memorize and you can attempt all the question if provided they have given this question in exam. But what happen if they will change the question? That time you will find difficulty. Understood? So what I am saying that it will of course a lot of stress in your mind right now, but it is a matter of 1 or 2 days. Once 2 days will over, you understood each and every point, you will become happy. Correct? Understood? So even though you are putting stress, even though you are feeling stress, ignore that for the time being. Okay? Understood? Now, can I ask one thing to you? Can you just write down, if you have understood this all four journal entries, can you write down this statement by your own for income? For income. Understood what I am saying? So if you can write down this statement by your own, means you have understood. So statement to calculate what? Income credited to PL. Very good. Statement to calculate income credited to PL. Correct now. I'll just write down the first point. Income what? Received during what? Current year. Now can you just write down all these plus minus by your own? Do it. If you are confident, write down with pen. If you are not confident, you can write down with pencil also. It is your choice. Have you understood what I have asked? Done. बताओ. Income received during current year, then plus or minus. बताओ. Outstanding income at year beginning. What do you do? Plus or minus? Outstanding income at year beginning. बताओ. Minus or plus? Minus ना. Minus. Outstanding income at year end. Plus pre-receive income at year beginning. Pre-receive income at year beginning. Plus pre-receive income at year end. Minus. Have we done in this way only? So this become income credited to PL. All have done this only? Anyone who have done mistake? All have done correct? Pakka? Hmm? Wrong. You have done mistake na? Once again I will explain. You want explanation? Understood na? Means your mistake you have understood? Chalega. So first do mistake, and if you have understood the mistake, okay. But if you are not able to understand your mistake, then it is not okay. Huh? So mistakes are of two types. If understood, okay. If not understood, dangerous. Correct? Yes, sir. I hope lot of explanation we have done. Can I give you one example? That one example. Example number 9. Interest income received during the year 2 lakh. Accrued interest at year beginning is 20,000. Accrued interest at year end is 40,000. Calculate interest income and pass journal entry. Into pass journal entry also. बताओ. Solution. So what will be the interest income? 2 lakh, 2 lakh. 20,000 is plus or minus? Huh? Accrued interest means what? Outstanding income at year beginning. So plus or minus? You are saying plus or minus? I am confused. Everyone saying minus now. You have seen the format and then saying or applied your common sense. You have not seen the format now. Format will see for examination. But right now apply your concept. So can you say accrued interest means outstanding income at year beginning? It means, can you say it was an income of last year, not received in last year, will be received in current year, but it is not an income of current year. Minus what? If this is minus, so this will be always what? Plus. It will be always plus. Then don't apply. One apply ho gaya. What is the answer? 2,20,000. Can you give the journal entry? First received. What about journal entry? First received. So cash account debit to interest income. This will be journal entry now. How much? 2 lakh we have received. We have received 2 lakh now. So cash means coming in, increasing cash, and income will be created. Correct? Then, second, for accrued interest at year beginning, what journal entry? It is increase in income or decrease in income? So the increase in income or decrease in income? Decrease. So which account will be debited? So interest income will be debited to what? So can we write on accrued interest? Accrued interest, how much? 20,000. Just find out increase or decrease in income. It will be very simple. Other aspect will be automatically identified. But then accrued interest at year end, increase or decrease? Increase in income will be created na. So other aspect will be what? Debited. Accrued interest account debit to interest income low. Simple na. Life is simple. Life is simple or not? थोड़ा सा रिक्वायर प्रैक्टिस. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा रिक्वायर प्रैक्टिस. लास्ट क्वेश्चन, जबरदस्त क्वेश्चन. गूगली. करेक्ट, गूगली. हाँ, रीड, अंडरस्टैंड एंड डू. ठीक है. एग्जाम्पल नंबर 10. Rent expense debited to PL is 2,20,000. Outstanding rent at year end 20,000. Outstanding rent at year beginning 30,000. Prepaid rent at year end 15,000. Prepaid rent at year beginning 25,000. Calculate rent paid. Can you say me? No discussion. No discussion. बताओ. If you have done option number 1, 2,20,000, Huh? Chalo, we'll change the amount. Sometime na I'm confused because 2 lakh 20 I have given 2 lakh 20 kim na. So it means whether you have understood or not, in that a doubt will come. Okay. Let us change the amount 50,000. Now see. 2 lakh you are saying? 2 lakh? Let's see. How many of you have done correct? Everyone saying 2 lakh? Anyone giving some different answer? I don't know the answer because I have not done plus minus. Done? Batao. Rent outstanding at year end plus minus. Huh? This will be plus. Bolo. So outstanding rent at year end means it is an expense of current year. Will be paid in outstanding rent at year end. So expense of will be paid in next year na. Okay. Then this is minus prepaid rent at year end. Prepaid rent at year end. What? Minus. And this will be plus. What answer you are getting? Everyone getting 2 lakh? Bolo yes or no? But this is not correct. Because you have not read the question carefully. In this question, what I have given? Rent expense debited to PL. I need to find out what is rent paid. Ulta ho gaya. Reverse na. In all question, I have given rent paid. I need to calculate what? Rent expense. This is ICI exam. Understood? Rectification student will die. Means you have applied, but whatever is given that you have applied, you have not read the question carefully. I said I'll give googly. Means I warned you. What was googly in this plus my no googly na? I said I'll give googly na. Are bolna re. Then also you have not read the question carefully. You need to read the question. Means what I have given rent expense debited. Means this is the what ending point. You need to calculate starting point. Are bolna re. Means entire plus minus signs will reverse. Entire plus minus sign will reverse. Understood? Or you say you can do in this way now. You write down rent paid is what? Question mark. That is not given na. Are bonare. This we need to find out. And then you can say plus 20. This is correct. Plus 20 to rent paid. Plus 20 to rent paid. But I have not given rent paid. Then what? Minus 50. Minus 50 is also correct. But minus 50 to what? Rent paid. Then what? Minus? How much? Minus 15 is also correct. But to rent paid. Plus 25,000 is also correct. But to rent paid. And the ending is what will be your plus minus answer that is given 2 lakh 20,000. Now if you want to calculate this, so 2 lakh 20 minus 25 plus 15 plus 50 minus 20. How much will come? 2 lakh 40,000 na. So your answer become 2 lakh 40,000. This is your answer. Now you will do 2 lakh 40 plus minus the same answer 2 lakh 20 will come. And this type of question have been asked 2-3 times in exam. Understood? Because ICI know what you are doing. So they will try to hit you. Try to hit you. And now if you have understood conceptual, then of course you will understand rent paid is required. I need to find out rent and they have given rent expense debited to PL. Understood? Have you understood? So next time you read question and do read question carefully. Correct? I hope with all this question you have understood accrual concept, but a revision is required. But a revision is 100% required. Correct? But I hope you have understood entire thing. Correct? One time revision, second time practice. I hope it will be in your grip. Means it will be with full grip. It will come. Bada. Yeah. Scroll. This answer was not correct. 2 lakh is not correct, huh? 2,40,000 is correct. So what you are writing from this? Okay. Sign is correct, but sign is correct when what is given? Paid. Rent paid is given. But what was given? Rent expense was given. There is a difference between rent paid and rent expense. So what is transfer to peer? Rent expense ki rent paid? Huh? What is transfer to peer? Rent expense ki rent expense paid? Rent expense, whether paid or payable. Understood? What is transfer to PL? Income received or income earned? Income earned, whether received or receivable. This is which concept? Accrual concept. Accrual concept. Means can I say all outstanding account, means outstanding expense account, pre-receive account, prepaid account, whatever account we have right now understood. This is because of which concept? Accrual concept. So one question is asked, the outstanding expense account is recognized due to which concept? Accrual concept. Accrued interest account is recognized due to which concept? Accrual concept. So this type of questions may be asked in exam in true, false, etc. Understood? I hope you have understood. For today, this much only. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow. Till then, bye bye. Take care. Enjoy your remaining day.